Hey guys, welcome back. This is Mohammad Badruddin. Hope you guys are doing well. So today there is another lab from Web Security Academy from Authentication module, lab number 8, and this belongs to two-factor authentication. We already solved two lab before. In the first lab, we simply bypass the second factor of authentication and we just log in with the Carlos user. In the second lab, because of the uh, logic flow without password for the Carlos, we simply bypass that step, generate the OTP for Carlos, then we brute force that OTP and we get login. So this lab is going to be difficult because its level is expert and there is some uh, good mechanism done by the developer. So this lab is very good and very realistic in terms of following the mechanism for two-factor authentication. But we will find a way to break this. Fine. So before going to the lab, as always for you, this video and its content are only for educational purpose and I do not support any unethical or illegal act. That's been said, let's go to the lab. So the lab is two-factor authentication bypass using brute force attack. This lab's two-factor authentication is vulnerable to brute forcing. You already have the valid username and password, Carlos, and its password is Montoya, but do not have access to the user two-factor authentication verification code because for that we need to access the Carlos email ID or his phone where the application sends the OTP. So to solve the lab, we need to brute force the two-factor authentication code and access the Carlos account page. That's been said, let's go to the lab. So I already open up the burp suite. Everything is set up. Just enable the burp suite on the browser and let's go to the my account page. So this will brings you here in the login page, and in the login page you will find, if you go to the request get login, you will find there is a session cookie, and once you go to the response you will find there are actually three parameters. So but here you will see, okay, there are two parameters, but in the response you will see there are three parameters, and among all these three parameters, this parameter, the first one, is actually hidden. That's why you cannot see here, and you will find this parameter name is Csrf, and there is some kind of Csrf token, and this token is unique and auto generated by the application because in the backend there is some session handling or session validation processes going on, and this Csrf token is tied with this session ID. So either you change session ID or the Csrf token, any of these if get changed, so you will not get the proper response and you will get the error from the application that the Csrf token is invalid or not exist, something like that. So this is very good, very good. Even in real life scenario, I found these mechanisms where the Csrf token tie with the session ID, session cookie, right? Fine, so we already have the valid username and its password is Montoya. So hit enter and you will find, because the username and password is correct, so application redirects you to the OTP page. We come to this post request where we put the username and password. You will find that this is the same session ID what we get here, 9TRH, 9TRH, and the last digits are also same. So the session ID is same, and once you see the parameters, you will find three parameters. This is the Csrf value that is generated by the application automatically. Here we already saw this. Okay, so same Csrf token and same session ID you will see here. Username is Carlos, password is Montoya, and it is redirecting you to the login to page. And once it's redirecting you to the login to page, you will point out this session cookie also. So it is setting another cookie that is auto generated by the application, and this session ID again is unique. Fine. So if you go to this get login to page, you will find this time this is the another session cookie which is generated here. Fine. And once you go to the response of this get login to page, you will find here only one parameter, but in the response you will see there are two parameters. So one is same like before, hidden, and that is Csrf, and this is the Csrf token value, and this is the session ID. So this time this session ID is bind with this Csrf value. So either you change this or this, it's gonna be problem for you, because it will say, okay, this session ID not belongs to this Csrf value, or this Csrf token not belongs to this session ID, because in the backend somewhere it's validating or checking, or it somewhere it cache the session ID and the respective Csrf value. So it will always check this, and anything you manipulate, it will not allow you to make another processes. Okay, fine. So now I'm going to just put any random OTP, 4-digit OTP, login, and as you can see, we got the post request for login to, and we see here the same session ID and the same Csrf value what we assigned in the previous step, means get login to. It means there are two steps. In the first step, where you put the username and password. So in the first step, application assign you one unique session ID with a tied Csrf token. In the second step, application again assign you one unique session ID with a unique Csrf token value. And in both cases, you have to put the same session ID and the same Csrf value. If you anyway manipulate these value, application is not gonna respond correctly and it will throw a error. Fine. So let's see, to check the behavior, what this application did if we make more than one wrong login attempt or OTP attempt. So again, I'm going to put 1233. And this time, as you can see, this application kick us back to the authentication page. So and this page, if we come here in the login to request, it say, okay, you put this ID. So it redirects us to the another to this first step. And as you can see, the session ID is changed here, and also another Csrf token is generated, and this token is tied this time with this session ID. So next time, once you again make username and password, try to authenticate. So you will authenticate with this session ID and this Csrf value. So that makes this application complex to brute force the OTP. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, in the analysis section, I'm going to add something. So the first step was get login page, and here we find session ID 1 plus Csrf token 1. Fine. Next, what we did is we make the post request with this, and here we put the username and password. Username plus password, and the first parameter was Csrf. So this was the Csrf1 token, what you get here. So I'm going to put the same here, and also the session ID would be same. Okay, so session ID, with this session ID you will go to do this. Okay, and if so, I'm going to say if username plus password are correct, so you will be redirected to /login2. It means here you will get login2, right? And in this page, what you will find, the application again give you or assign you the new session ID plus CSRF token number 2. And again, once you go to make the post request for /login2, you will go with this session ID, and you have to put the CSRF token number 2 because that will be your first parameter, and the OTP what you put is gonna be it's mfa-code like this. So this is the OTP parameter. Fine. So for session handling, for me, these three requests are very important because in these three steps, we will find all the session IDs and the CSRF tokens generated by the application. So what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to explore Burp Suite a bit more with session handling feature. So if you go to the project options and go to the sessions, inside sessions, you will go to add. A new window will pop up, that is session handling rule editor. Go to the scope, and inside scope, you will click on the include all URLs, then go back to the details, and in the rule actions, add a new rule and click on run a macro. So once you click here or come here, you will have to add all the URLs in a sequence form. So the first URL for me we need to add is this get login request, where you have the first session ID and its CSRF token. Another, just press the control button and you can choose multiple. So I'm going to add second request, that is post login, where we put the username and password and we make login. Once we log in, so we are redirected to the login to page, and in this login to page we get the new session ID and the new CSRF token. Fine. So for me these three requests is everything. So make OK, and you can see here all these three rules are added in a sequence. Then run a macro test. If this macro test gives you the last page where you need to put the OTP, it means that test is successful. Also here you will assign with a CSRF value. So test, it is going to test. So as you can see, we got session cookie with the new CSRF token. So every time when you going to brute force, this will provide you the session ID and the new CSRF token, and with that you can go to brute force the OTP. So I'm going to the last request, and here as you can see we got this unique session ID, and in the response you will see that we have please enter 4-digit security code, and this is what we need. Okay, and this is the new CSRF token value. Fine. So this means we are good. Okay, now make OK, and here as you can see macro 1 is added. Okay. Okay, next thing is go again to the proxy, and this time I'm going to make the post request. This post request, send this to the intruder. Go to the intruder positions, and we do not need all of this, so I'm going to just clear, and we just need this because session ID and the CSRF value, these two values we will get from the macro what we add before, so we need to just change this. Okay, so I'm going to add this. Go to the payload, and the payload should be number, and if you have the 4-digit all possible OTPs list or file, you can add that file also here, but I'm going to make it number. So from 0 to 9999, and step is going to be 1, and minimum integer digits 4, maximum integer digits 4, and maximum fraction digit is 0, so we do not get the decimal values. Go to the resource pool, and actually this resource pool we are not gonna work because maximum concurrent request is 10. No, if the maximum concurrent request is more than 1, then the application or this brute force process will not give you the correct result, because for each attempt you need a unique session ID and the Csrf value. But if you make more concurrent connection, so maybe it will try uh, more than one attempt with the same session ID and the Csrf. So we need to create a new resource pool, and maximum concurrent request is gonna be 1. Fine. So everything is done. Let's just start the attack. Okay. So we will see. So as you can see, okay, so this is the request. You see this session, this Csrf value, and this is the session ID cookie, and this is the first OTP. So this session ID and this Csrf value must be unique for every request. So I go down, sorry, from here. So you can see the session ID and Csrf both are different. Fine. Go down, different. Third request, different. Fourth request, different. Fifth, different. So as you can see, in all the requests we got the unique session IDs and its respective Csrf values, right? But one thing, as always, that this process is going to take a long time, because you can see the speed. Okay, 24, 25. So let it run, and we can create our own Python script that will speed up this process better than the burp suite. So I'm going to come here, lab 08, sorry, just save it, authentication lab8.py, with this replace. Okay, so I'm going to create my own Python script /user/bin/n python3. Fine. And what I am going to do is to see both of the screens simultaneously. Okay, up to now we didn't get 302, because once the correct OTP hits, we will get the 302 response status. Okay, so Python 3, then import modules. So request import URL lib3 import, because we need to grab the session ID, not session ID, Csrf token, and for that we need to import beautiful soap also. So from bs4 import beautiful soap. Okay, next is URL lib3 dot disable underscore warnings. Fine. So next is proxies equal to proxies, no, sorry, proxies equal to this, and I'm going to say okay, so http ://127.0.0.1:8088, and https, I'm going to say http ://127.0.0.1:8088, because I'm using this port. You can use 8080, the default port, no problem. So first thing first, we will follow this way. So we need this request and we will grab the Csrf token from this. So I'm going to do from the sessions. So session equal to request dot session, and I'm going to create a definition function. So get Csrf1 with the URL argument, and what I need to do is just make the request. So r equal to session dot get and URL equals to URL comma verify equal to false comma proxies equal to proxies. Fine, and take the response is r dot text. Then as we know that the Csrf value for the first request is in the response and in the input field, hidden field. So I will show you again. If we go to the proxy, and this is the first get login. So if you see the response closely, you will find that this Csrf value is here in this input tag. So I will grab this value by using beautiful soap. So I'm going to say soap equal to beautiful soap, and res comma, this will make HTML dot parser. Then we need to say a variable that is Csrf1 equal to soap dot find, and from which tag, from the input tag, we need to bring this, and in the input tag there is a parameter which name is name, and the name is actually Csrf, and we need to bring out its value. So value, fine. So this will bring us the value of the Csrf token. Now I will say if we got the Csrf1, so it should return us this value Csrf1. Fine, and we can also say else print a message for the user something went wrong, we didn't find the Csrf token. Fine. So this is going to be the first function, and we need to call this function. So to call this function, get Csrf1, and we will say URL1, and we need to define here URL1 value. So I'm going to say URL1 equal to, and this is going to be this, copy and paste it here. Fine. So login, just this. Another part of this script is gonna be the post request, where you enter the username and password. So I'm going to say post step 1. So it needs URL. So what it needs is, the first thing is data, So data equals to this, and before data, because in the data it needs Csrf, so I'm going to say Csrf equal to, and instead of calling that function here, it is gonna call this function inside the first function. It will call the first function inside the second function, and this will call this whole function and brings the Csrf value, and then this Csrf value we can put it here. So Csrf, this Csrf is actually this one, and the second parameter is gonna be username, and we already know the username, that is Carlos, and the third parameter is password, and we know the password, that is Montoya. Let's see if we get anything up to now. Nothing. So let it run. Okay, Montoya, fine. So data is ready, Csrf we already call. The next part is just to make request. So from the session dot post, and I'm going to say URL equal to URL, comma data equals to data, comma verify equal to false, and proxies equals to proxies, and allow redirects equals to true. Fine. So make it bigger, yeah. And again, once the username and password is correct, so what it's gonna do is to redirect you to the login to page, right, with the new session ID. So I'm going to, with the new session ID, and once you redirect it to the login to page, because we make allow this redirect, so we can grab the Csrf value, the second Csrf value from here. So I'm going to say response equal to r dot text, and soap equal to beautiful soap, and the same like before. So I'm going to just copy to save the time. So copy and paste it here. The next value is gonna be Csrf2 equal to, and the same, because this second Csrf value is also inside the input tag where everything is same like this. So if we go and get login to, and we go down, so you will see this. Fine. So in the same way we will grab the Csrf2 value. Fine. So what we do now is just gonna say check another thing, whether if we are in the so we will check here, if please enter if this string in r dot text, actually control X, in response, so do this. Fine. So that's good. So if this string, please log in, please enter the 4-digit OTP. If this string is in the response, so it will bring the Csrf value, Csrf token 2, and we can say return Csrf2. Fine, save this, and we can do one more thing, that is session dot close. Fine, save it. So instead of calling this function, the first function, we can call the second function, right? Copy and paste this here, but yeah, second function will also go with the URL1, this value. So we got this in the first function we grab the CSRF1 value, we pass this, we call this function in the second function, and we grab the CSRF value, put in the data, make the post request, and grab the or retrieve the CSRF token 2. Now this CSRF token 2 is needed by the third request, that is going to be the post request for the step 2. So where you need to put the OTP. So read this post step 2, and it also need URL. Go there and okay, for fine. So now instead of calling this second function from here, we will call this second function here. So CSRF is equal to post step this one, copy paste, and same like data is gonna be this. So the first parameter is CSRF and its value is CSRF, and the second parameter is from the intruder you can grab this mfa-code. So mfa-code, so mfa-code code, and this parameter is going to be OTP. And how we will grab this parameter is with open. So I'm going to say, in a minute I will tell you what is that. So inside root desktop / authentication, we have a file that is otp.txt. We created this file in the previous lab with the crunch tool. If you want to see how we created this file, you can go back to the previous lab and you can check it out. So we already have 4-digit all possible numbers, all possible codes here, and it is approximately 10,000. So we already have this file. So I'm just going to read this file as out file, and OTPs equal to out file dot read dot split, and inside it I'm gonna say new line. So and from here, one more thing we can do is just put this value up here and take this value from here, because every time we need the new CSRF value. So I'm going to put it here, and before this I'm going to run in a for loop. So for OTP in OTPs, for every OTP, fine. So every time it takes one OTP, it comes and run this process again to grab the new CSRF token and put that token and the OTP value here. Fine. So this OTP is come from here. So data is completed. Now let's just make request. So session dot post, this is going to be post request, and URL equal to URL, comma data equals to data, comma verify equals to false. Fine. And proxies equal to proxies. Good. So if you do not make here allow redirect, it will automatically allow redirect. So we can say allow redirects equals to true, and just going to take the response res equal to r dot text, and I'm going to check if Carlos is in the response in response. So I'm gonna say print and plus valid OTP for Carlos is plus OTP, and I'm going to break that loop here. Fine. So this is gonna work for us, and this will be faster than the our intruder from the burp suite. So let's see if we found something here. Up to now we did not find anything. So why not we can run our script, our own script, to get the code. And as you can see here, up to now only 169 requests. So I'm going to pause this attack, okay, and I'm going to run our own script. So I'm going to say Python 3, and wait a moment, we missed something. We need to call the third function. So I'm going to say the third function is this. So copy, paste it here, and this time it needs URL2. So we need to add this URL here. So URL2 equal to, and same like this, but just the path is different. So copy and paste it here, and I'm going to say login2. Fine. So this time login2. Fine. So let's see, Python 3 lab, and before running this process, I am going to show you something, that we grab the Csrf or not. So I'm gonna say, well, we can see it in the burp suite also. And one more thing, we do not need to run proxy everywhere. So I'm not going to do here, just the third step. Fine. So save it, and you can test it by just creating one function and put the print, call the print function here to see what Csrf value it's retrieving, and put one print function here for the Csrf2 value, and you will see it will grab the different Csrf values. So the most important point is Csrf values, and we already grab it from here. So I'm going to do that, lab08.py, and let's say enter. So we get something here. Yeah, we started getting hits. You can see. So post request, this is the first one. You can see the Csrf value is different. Another request, different. Another request. So you can see all requests have Csrf, different Csrf values, and it's going to check every OTP with the different Csrf, and you can also see the session IDs are also different. So that is what we need. Fine. So I'm going to pause the video, and once it's completed, I will come back. Okay. Guys, welcome back, and finally we got the deal, and we got the correct OTP for the Carlos user. And as you can see here, the 302 we got, and if you see the request or the response, in the response you will see that we are going to redirected by the application to the my account page, and this is the my account page. And if you go to the browser, you will see congratulations, you solved the lab. So it takes a bit time, and finally, because the lab is for the expert level, and also you have to try hard, because this time what actually OTP we found is 1607. So this is the OTP 4-digit. That's why it takes a bit long, but no problem. That not that much long. Fine. So if you wanna visit the web page, you can just come here, and you can show response to the browser. Copy this, open new page, and paste it here. Enter. and you will see what is that? Yeah, it's showing the Carlos page, but not loaded everything correctly. But this is the Carlos page. You can see your username is Carlos, email ID is this. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, and share if you found this content valuable. Thank you so much. See you. Bye.